Okay, so the let's see, the right reserve cavalry. That's right. They retreated to here, and they've been followed up by. They can be followed by all the units that attacked, if there's space for them to do it, and they can move into the hex that was vacated by the enemy, or they can move into hexes that were adjacent to the hex vacated by the enemy, as long as it's also adjacent to the attacking unit. So basically, both of these two French units, as we can imagine, move just straight forward. The idea there is they're basically trying they're just trying to get around the flank. They are mindful of the fact, of course, that these two units here, if these two units here decide, no, enough is enough, up lads, up and at 'em. If they start coming this way, then they've got some pretty big guns with them. Fair enough. But they've got to make something happen. So they've gone forward. Now that does mean that, for example, this cavalry unit in its turn is not going to be able to sneak away that one hex, as did these chaps over here in the earlier turn, because what they have in front of them is only cavalry, and they're not allowed to do that. So therefore, they will have to attack them. So that unit there has to attack these units here, or rather, both these units have to be attacked. Let's put it that way. So the British have got some thinking, or the Anglo-Allies are going to have some thinking to do. His Grace has got some thinking to do in the next turn there. So a little bit of progress there. Not a lot, but a little bit. Then, of course, we have these chaps are required to bombard those chaps in order to satisfy the requirement that they should be attacked. Okay, there are no adjustments there. It's just a simple 1-to-1, except that, wait a minute, no, they're shielded. So if the defender is, if any defender is shielded, yeah, it's a +1. So it is indeed a +1. So let's roll that up. So it's 6 with a +1. 1-to-1, that's going to be an attack or retreat, which doesn't affect the artillery because they're shooting at range. Okay, right, that's that done. So then we move down the line, and we've got this unit here will indeed be bombarding them. I suppose, do I do, that's a good thing. Do I do that now, or do I do that later? Well, the result might be that that unit gets pushed back, I suppose. Let's see. Well, it's 5 firing at 7. The math is pretty, yeah, okay. It's 5 firing at 7, so that's going to be a 1-to-2. But the defender is shielded, so that's a +1 on the die. So that means that they can't possibly. There was one chance of rolling a 1 of getting a defender retreat, but if you add +1, that can't happen. So all you can have is attacker retreat or attacker eliminated, which you ignore for artillery. So therefore, there's no need to even roll the die, because it can't possibly do anything. So they fire at them, and again, it was an example of what General Lee would call a desultory fire. Don't know how General Lee came up in this battle, but anyway, it's an interesting point. And then moving on, we have then, so they've been taken care of, they've been dealt with. So now these chaps are attacking those chaps there. So we've got a 1-to-1 there with no other factors as far as I can see. So we got a 1-to-1. Let's roll that sucker up. And we've got, oh gosh, we've got a 6. So a 1-to-1 with a 6 is, and they're not shielded. No, they're cavalry, so they can't be shielded. So it's 1-to-1 with a 6. So that is indeed attacker retreat. So let's deal with that. Okay, so we had our retreat there. Now here, we're going to do this one next. So it's these 3 units here attacking them. So it's 9, a total of 9 attacking 4. So that's 2-to-1, but they do have the -1 because they are French cavalry attacking. So, right, 2-to-1 with a -1. Come on, chaps. Aha! Now, a 1. So that is indeed 2-to-1 with a 1. So that's defender retreat. Okay, I think their choices, it's the general reserve, and I think their retreat choices are what we might call limited. They can't push them out of the way because that would be going into a zone of control there. If they were to go that way, that would be pushing them out of the way. And I really don't think they want to do that because they are, of course, shielded. So therefore, they're going to retreat in that direction. I'll flip them around so we know what's happened. Okay, there we are. And now, of course, the attackers can follow up. And we get the interesting situation now where, let's see. Yeah, now the attack going on these chaps, they're still not surrounded, obviously, because that means they could retreat. Even if we moved into this position here, they can retreat into that position there, which has no enemy zone of control. So let me think about who's going to move in there for a second. Okay, so let's see. The 4th Division of D'Erlon's 1st Corps has advanced into that position. That does mean that the heavies here will, in their turn, they will be able to make that special 1 hex fallback move, screening move, to be able to get out of their clutches. But it was determined that they could have sent the cavalry forward instead, which would have then stuck or pinned the heavy cavalry against the cavalry if they were there. But the problem is sending that cavalry in there, they only have a strength of 2, so they would almost certainly, as far as I could see, they would almost certainly have been eliminated by the Anglo-Allies attacking them, and I didn't like the sound of that. So that's what's happened there. And then finally, we have the Guard light cavalry here attacking the left reserve cavalry, and that is a 1-to-1 with a -1 on the die because it's attacking French cavalry. So let's roll that one up, and we got a 5. It takes us down to a 4. So it was 1-to-1. 1-to-1 with a 4 is attack a retreat. Marvelous. Okay, well, let's do that. And as we can see, the French Guard light cavalry have retreated to this position here. It was interesting because, of course, in the amendments, remember, the 4 hexes on both the west and the east flank are unusable for the French. So, if you had enough enemy units around, and you were thinking, oh, I'll just retreat to here, you couldn't, and you would be destroyed. Anyway, but he was able to, instead of being there, he was able to move to here because he's not in zone of control, and he's still more than 4 hexes away from the edge, so that's fine. The left reserve cavalry have chosen not to follow up. They're not required to follow up. They're only required to follow up if they are... I will actually check that. Let's see. Required if... I'm pretty sure if it's only if the enemy were attacking Anglo-Allies that had 3-5s or 4-5s involved. Let me check that. And this is indeed the case. That only applies if the blood is... they're attacking and their blood's up. Sort of a la Scots Greys, that sort of thing. Ponsonby, yes. And that sort of thing. Right, so I believe that is indeed the end of the French 3rd turn. And things are not looking too good for the Emperor right now because, of course, now in the Allied turn, the Prussians are going to come bursting through the Paris wood off to the east there, down this sort of literal neck of the woods. And at the moment, the score is sort of 0-0. No one has occupied any buildings, taken them from the enemy, and there have been categorically no casualties that have been recorded, at least on the table. Let's see, yes, so it's not looking that great for Napoleon. Right. And this is the situation at the end of the Anglo-Allied, let's just say the Allies' moves in turn 3, which is the 4 o'clock turn, because now we will call them the Allies, because we can see that the Prussians have indeed arrived. So we've got, under the amendments, we have this group of Prussian divisions will not be coming on until the 7 o'clock turn. So we've got these, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units have come on. And then we've got this extra unit over here, which the Prussian commander, Prince Blucher, decided to keep off. And so as to keep the French guessing about where they might come on. This gives him complete flexibility in the sense that in the next turn, if desired, or in a subsequent turn, they can come on. So they can come on, you know, up there and go that way, or they could come on down here and go that way. There were, of course, particular constraints when they came on, because they have to count 1 hex for the first hex that they enter. They're not allowed to enter in. Well, no one's allowed to move freely into a wood unless on a road. So they couldn't use those hexes. And so if you had a case where you had, for example, had these cavalry down here, for example, couldn't attack them because, or could have attacked them, sorry, with cavalry. There's the 1 Prussian cavalry unit there. Because under the amendments, you have to pay 1 extra movement point to move into the zone of control of an enemy cavalry unit. So if you're an infantry unit, for example, you would have paid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to be able to get to there, and that's too far. So, okay, that was going on there. And then otherwise, let's see. So this cavalry was able to get forward and attack the Guard light cavalry there. That's one attack that's going in. So there are the Prussians coming on, and also, of course, the adjustments has been made as well due on the amendment to the rules, the Sabin amendments. Now what I've done is I've removed the indications on the units of the Guard and also on these chaps here, this selection of units here, where they had the indication on them that they could only move eastward until turn 4, where they can move freely. These chaps were not able to move at all until turn 4, where they can move freely, and those I've moved the counters away from them now, the marker counters, so that in turn 4, now the Emperor finally has complete freedom of movement with all his units. Okay, so let's see what happened. Basically, the Allied line, apart from the Prussians coming on, so they've got an attack going in here, which is interesting because you've got your cavalry, which has made it to the Guard light cavalry, but they've also got the artillery here as well. So that will indeed be a 2-to-1 that they'll be able to put into effect there. Over here, we had these 2 units here which had to attack. The cavalry were not able to withdraw away. They can only do that if they're being faced by some infantry or some artillery, and they're not. They're being faced by cavalry alone, so they weren't able to withdraw away. So they had to attack. So we have got an attack going in here. There was the final last sort of reserve, as it were, of cavalry that Wellington had back here in the region of Mont-Saint-Jean, which was the Dutch-Belgian cavalry, and they've been brought in down here. So now what we have is we're actually going to have an attack of these 4 are going to be attacking these 2, so that's a 2-to-1, and then we've got these 5 are going to be attacking the Guard heavy 4 there, so that's going to be a 1-to-1. Then let's see, we can also have the artillery here, I suppose, can fire. I don't know if they'll get any kind of result from that. Perhaps they could both team up and bombard somebody, like those 2 could bombard them. Then moving down, right down here, these 2 chaps had the option, because they're faced by infantry as well as cavalry, but they're faced by infantry. That means that they can withdraw 1 hex, a very specific move. They can withdraw 1 hex to a hex that is not in enemy zone of control. And then subsequently, no Allied unit can move into the hex that they vacated. But they chose not to do that. They chose to stick around and fight. So therefore, these 10 are going to be attacking the 4th Division of D'Erlon's Corps there. So it'll be a 2-to-1. And then the left reserve will be attacking these chaps here, which are, looks like the, I'm guessing 1C is 1st Cuirassier. So they'll be attacking them at a 3-to-2, which will be a 1-to-1. Okay, right. So if we just jump in and go ahead, I suppose, and work our way down the line. So we'll start off with this attack here, which if the Allies get very lucky, they would be able to push those chaps backwards and do a follow-up, which would then surround that unit, which might prove interesting. So let's see what we can do about that. So it's 5-to-4, so it's 1-to-1. There are no other factors. Let's roll that up. And ooh, that's a good roll for the attacker. That's a 1. So it's 1-to-1 with a 1. So that's defender retreat. So that means they are going to be in a position to surround the 12th Cuirassier. So the Guard Heavy have got to retreat. So let's see, they've probably only got, well, they could retreat that way, I guess, and push these chaps back that way. They can't go there, obviously. They can't push them sideways, so they could go to, where could they go? They could retreat. They could retreat to here, which would displace them, or they could retreat to here. But I have to think about this. All right, so they the Guard Heavy retreated to this position, and of course here we had the Right Reserve Cavalry, which is a 3-5 that just took part in an attack. So they it is mandatory that they will move forward into the enemy's, that they will make an advance. And the only space available for them is to move into that spot there. So that's where they've gone. And then I'm thinking, actually, because, of course, these chaps who are not... they're not shielded, so they've got nothing to lose. They've got the protection of the buildings to lose. If they could also move, because they've won the contest, so they could also move to there, and then that would put them in contact with them. So they would either have to attack them, or they would have to pull back to here. You think about that. So they have indeed decided to go forward. They would be, I think they are the Brunswickers, the 2-4 there. We'll soon find out if that was a good idea. Over here, things are getting interesting because, of course, now we do have that, we got 4 against the 2. And the key thing here is that these chaps here, as we can see, are surrounded. Not sure we've had too many other cases in this battle where units have been surrounded. Of course, it's a key thing to try to do, but I think this is one of the very few, possibly even the first, I'm not sure, occasions where it's actually happened. So, they've got a 2-to-1. There are no pluses or minuses as far as I can see. Now, here we have... well, this is looking really good, isn't it? Because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 possibilities of defender retreat. Eliminate is turned into retreat if the defender is entirely cavalry. And then we have an attacker retreat. So we have 5 chances out of 6 to cause a retreat, which would eliminate that unit. So as long as the Wellington doesn't roll a 6 here, they're going to get destroyed. Let's see what happens. And yep, they've rolled a 4, so that's it. That's good. Good for Wellington, right? So this is the first unit that has been lost in the entire battle, right? So we'll get those chaps off there, and so now we can have a follow-up. What can't be done by the artillery? They were just firing canister. They tend not to follow up, but we can follow up most certainly with the Dutch-Belgian cavalry, who've given a very good account of themselves. So I think they will actually follow up to here. Okay. So, yes, goes to show the power of surrounding the enemy. What? Okay, moving on.